You see that message?
Is this welcome?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see one that says, please say hello?
No. Oh, yes, it's please say hello on the type it.
Yeah.
You can hear yourself type.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There's that long a delay. I'm just going to take a couple minutes to let people get on board before I get started. I'm just gonna take one more minute. The people are coming on the webinar. It's really fun watching people show up. So I'll take one more minute and then we'll get started. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's get going here. Thank you, hello, and thank you everybody for being here today. I know that we all have a lot going on, so I just feel so honored to be sharing with you today information in this webinar about how to write and make money with your expert book. My name is Karen Lynn Marr, and I own Legacy One Authors. It's a self-publishing consulting firm that helps business experts and philanthropists write and publish their nonfiction books about their life's work. We tell about their story and the work that they've devoted their life to doing in the world. Just so you know who's on this webinar with you, I'd like to share with you about who's participating. We have entrepreneurs, we have coaches, we have financial advisors, and we have people from all of the different time zones in the United States. We have a web designer, we have people who have written books before, we have people who haven't written any books but desire to do so. We have a founder of a technology startup company. We cover a broad spectrum of expertise and industries. So again, welcome for being here. It's wonderful to have this diverse and fabulous group of people participating. And something that we all have in common is that we have an interest and a desire to write. Some of you to start writing, and many of you to actually finish writing the book that you dream about writing. So again, welcome. I have a slideshow that goes along with this webinar, and in just a couple minutes, you won't see me anymore, you'll see the slideshow. So, but before we get going with that, there's a little bit of housekeeping I'd like to do. I will be taking questions today, so as you have questions, go ahead and type them in, and I'll do my best to answer them. It's really interesting to be managing several things at the same time, like being on camera, managing the slideshow, and kind of monitoring the chat as it's happening as well. So I'll do my best to answer all the questions as they come up. Also, well, right now I'm going to go into the slideshow because as I speak, there are things that I want you all to know about. So again, the title of this webinar is How to Write and Make Money with Your Book. And so you'll see on there all the ways that you can be in touch with me. And I welcome you to contact me through email, through my website. I want to stay in touch with you and actually also develop a community of writers. So one thing that some of you may be on social media, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to be tweeting as we participate in this webinar. So my Twitter name is Legacy One Authors. That's Legacy with the number 1 and then Authors. And as you hear valuable nuggets, I invite you to tweet and use the hashtag #ExpertBook. Also, you can post on Facebook, and my Facebook fan page is there on the screen. You can be in touch with me through Legacy One Authors. Okay, let's get into the content of this webinar. I know that for a majority of you out there, we all share some common questions. So as we're running through, as the questions keep running through your mind about how to write a book and writing your expert book, please send them to me as they arise. And like I said before, I will do my best to answer them as we go along. And I want to take the time right now to share with you a quote that I feel inspires me and drives the work that I do. It's a quote that I learned about 20 years ago, and every day when I read it, it inspires me, and I'd like to share it with you. It's written in a book by Louise DeSalvo. She's a writing instructor and an author in her own right. She wrote a book called Writing as a Way of Healing, How Telling Our Stories Transforms Our Lives. And she said, I didn't know that if you want to write a book, if you want to write and don't, because you don't feel worthy enough or able enough, not writing will eventually erase who you are. And when I think about that, I don't want anybody who desires to write a book to disappear. And that's why I do the work that I do, to help people say the things that they need to say. So here's what we're going to do today. I want you to discover how to write your expert book without feeling overwhelmed. I want to address and help you discover the #1 mistakes authors make that cost them money, and then how to avoid that mistake. And then I also want to give you the top 3 ways that I've discovered that people can make money with their expert book. I also will share about myself, let you know a little bit about my own journey to becoming a publishing consultant and an author and what I've learned along the way. And yes, I will share some information, stories, and strategies. And some of you are going to want to know more at the end. So, and I'm excited to help give you more. So I'm going to share with you an opportunity for you to do just that at the end of this webinar together. I know that for a majority of us, you know, there are things that obstacles that we face that have stopped us. So the things that I've discovered over the last 13 years in terms of working with people is that they have like about 3 different obstacles that can get in their way. The truth of the matter is that there are these 3 emotional states that stop aspiring authors and will stop you from writing your expert book if they're left unchecked. And those things, those emotional states, are that you're overwhelmed, you're resentful, and you're uncommitted. So think about those things and just kind of ponder those, because I want, and I'll come back to them. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to tell you a little bit about my, oops, I'm sorry, I am having trouble with my, I need to go back. I'm having trouble with my slideshow. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm having some trouble with managing the slideshow, so I want to just take a minute and stop, because I've kind of gotten out of sync with the slideshow. So let me just take a minute, and I'm going to close out of that and start over with the slideshow. So please bear with me. Please bear with me. Again, having some trouble managing managing the slideshow. Okay, here we are. Thank you for your patience. I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. So let's just get on with it. So have you ever wondered, in some people who, something that I've discovered is, in some form or other, people who want to write a book have pondered these questions. So have you ever wondered this? I want to write a book, but how do I pull everything together to make that happen? What do I do with the book after I write it? And how will I recoup the cost of self-publishing my book? So I want to answer these questions today. So it's in my intention to do my best to address these questions so that you can take action and make your desire and your dream to write a book a reality. I also want to help you discover today how to finally get your book written without feeling overwhelmed, the #1 mistake authors make that costs them money and how to avoid it, and then the top 3 ways to make money with your book. I also want to share with you my journey to becoming a publishing consultant and an author and what I've learned along the way. Yes, I'm going to give you a lot of information, some stories, and some strategies. And again, like I said before, some of you want to learn more, so I'll give you an opportunity to know how you can get more and continue to be in relationship with me in the end. So a bit about my personal story. When I talk to people about my work, I am always asked, so how did you start doing what you do? I didn't know that there was someone out there helping people write and publish books. So a bit about me and how I got to be here today, talking with you about how to write and make money with your book. As is true with many writers and authors, I cannot recall a time in my life where I didn't find language, words, and writing intriguing. They were always a part of my life. And it seems that I've always been a writer. I wrote my first play in the 5th grade, and words have come easily for me when I write. In a lot of ways, I consider it, you know, a spiritual gift. I've always had a journal in some form, so I could write about what was going on in my life. Writing for me has been the best way to make sense of the world around me and also to connect with how I feel, what I think, and what I believe. It's how I discern the difference in a lot of ways between reality and fantasy. Somehow, through writing, the truth comes apparent for me when I transfer what's going on into my head onto paper. And I believe that's also what happens when people desire to write a book. There's a lot going on inside of their head, and it's really an important step to take what's in your head and get it out there in front of you so you can see it on paper. think that's why I'm so gifted at helping people do just that, taking a lot of information and synthesizing to the essence of what it is they want to say in their message, what they truly want to say. I've really been doing it for myself my whole life. In the mid-1980s, I published a magazine with a group of women for 2 years. It's a journal published by Quaker women called Friendly Woman, and it still exists today. Every 2 years, the publishing responsibility shifts to a new group of women somewhere in the United States. And being part of that collective experience gave me the courage, and I think, and the confidence to pursue a job that was focused on writing. I then spent 15 years working for a healthcare organization here in Seattle, where I was basically a staff writer in the executive offices that supported the board of trustees and CEO. It's where I learned to write succinctly and on behalf of a lot of people, to reflect their voice and their style. Little did I know that my corporate job for 15 years was preparing me to own and operate Legacy One Authors. But before I get ahead of myself, there was one phase before becoming a book writing coach and publishing strategist. After 15 years at that same company here in Seattle, I got a better offer. The guy I was dating asked me to marry him and go travel for a year. So it didn't really take me very long to say yes to that adventure and start a whole new phase of my life. So we got married, planned this trip, and I left my job with the faith that the next step for me would become clear. And that's exactly what happened. While we traveled, it became crystal clear to me that the next step for me was finishing my bachelor's degree. It was always an incomplete for me, and so that's what I did. And it took about 3 years, and then in December of 2000, I graduated from Seattle University with a degree in English and creative writing, and also a desire to help people write about their lives. In 2001, on January the 8th, Legacy One Authors was born. It was a cold, rainy day in Seattle, and I started my business. And it was that day also that I realized that, yes, I had a business plan, and I had gotten support through a business planning event at Seattle University through the business school to write a business plan. But really, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I think that day I had one thing on my plate. I was having lunch with a college professor, and I came home and I burst out into tears, and then I got out my computer, went to Starbucks, and started just doing what people do, researching a lot about business and what to do next. It was pretty amazing experience, and somehow through all of that and the past 13 years, I and my business have evolved immensely. I am crystal clear about what I'm doing and how I serve my clients, and I've worked with about 40 people to help them write and self-publish their nonfiction books, help them tell their stories and capture their expertise and their life's work permanently and in print. I've learned that people who hire consultants want value for their investment. They have a problem that needs to be solved, and they are relying on me to help them solve that problem. And I've already mentioned at the beginning of this webinar a lot of what people are experiencing, and I'll get more into that in a minute. I've learned directly to speak about what people need to know and hear if they're going to be successful in writing and publishing their books. And that's where we get into where I mentioned before, my screen went crazy on me, that most of the time what I've discovered stops people is they feel overwhelmed, they feel resentful, and they feel uncommitted. They're overwhelmed by the scope of the project as a whole, and you might be feeling that as well. that writing a whole book seems a daunting task because you don't really have a grasp on how to break down the project into manageable pieces without some help. You ask yourself over and over, you know, what do I do? Or you may feel resentful. And a lot of writers, they become resentful about having to promote themselves as an author, as well as promoting the book. That whole sense of marketing and promotion, again, is part of that sense of overwhelm. And you're already running a business and doing some amazing work, serving clients, or you have a corporate job and you're busy with it, serving people and going about your day, and you've decided to write a book, so that takes a lot of energy. The marketing and the promotion of your book feels like add-on tasks, and you don't know what to do. You ask yourself over and over, what do I do? You may feel uncommitted as well. And when I talk about uncommitted, you're uncommitted to devoting the time, energy, and money it takes to write and publish your book. You don't see the pathway for a return on your investment of all three of those resources. You ask yourself over and over, what do I do? So as I've gone through all of these obstacles, you might recognize a common question that keeps occurring. That question is, what do I do? Well, moving forward to get your book done is a matter of resolving these three emotional states, and that's what I am here to help you do. So I have a question that I'd like you to consider. And that question is, what would it be worth to you to get beyond these blocks and actually get your book done? Here's what the people that I work with share with me about the value of getting beyond these blocks. They say, I want to increase the level of my credibility as an expert in my industry. I want to expand my visibility as a thought leader among my peers as well as my clients. I also want to enlarge my sphere of influence in the world. And, you know, these are fabulous reasons, but in a lot of ways, doesn't it also come down to some additional items that would make it worth getting beyond these blocks? We all want to make more business. We all want to make more money in our business by helping people. And we see that writing a book is a strategy of choice to make that happen. We can reach a lot of people through the printed word. We all want to make a difference in the lives of people with whom we work, to inspire them. And through a book and knowing what our audience wants and needs, we can inspire them to help them live better lives. And we all have devoted our professional lives to acquiring a body of knowledge and expertise. And we want to write a book that captures our life's work permanently in print in order to help others improve their lives. In reality, what we do in writing a book is that we preserve our legacy. So what makes me unique about as a book writing coach and a publishing consultant is that I help people who want to write a book approach being an author as a business. And failing to approach authorship as a business is the #1 mistake authors make. They get somehow caught up in the romantic notion of what it means to be an author, because we hear all these, you know, stories about people getting rich and they get discovered, and you know, that happens and it's true, but for a lot of these famous authors, they have devoted years and years and lots of effort to achieving that dream. Somehow, you know, we lose track that we have to put in a lot of work in the promotion of who we are and what we're doing to make that dream of reaching people a reality. We need to approach authorship just like any other business. Somehow, sometimes we get caught up in maybe that our message and our writing is so profound that we'll just be discovered, and without creating and following a systematic approach to promoting on ourselves and our book, we won't get anywhere. So that's what I do. I help people master the business of authorship one step at a time. In essence, I develop expert authors. So later on, let me just take a moment to share with you that later on in the call, I'll share with you how you can get started quickly to follow a step-by-step for getting clear about your book idea, your audience, and the overall content of your book. But right now, though, I want to look at what I call the keystones of authorship as a business and what it takes to make money with your book. Then if you're ready to dig deeper, I'll show you how you can go and take that next step. So let's just jump right in and talk about becoming an expert author and the keystones of authorship as a business. As I was sorting out how to talk with authors about the business side of being an author, I happened upon a book by Josh Kaufman called The Personal MBA. So, and basically what Josh says is forgo investing the time and money and energy into getting an MBA. Just read his book, because he made that investment for all of us on our behalf. And if you just read his book, it talks about all of what he learned. And, I actually found that that was really true, and it was very helpful to me. So I'm going to share with you the 5 aspects of any business and then translate those into how authors need to look at their authorship business. So there are 5 things that are true for every business that must exist. That is production, marketing, sales, distribution, and finance. So let's first talk about production. Every business needs to create and deliver a product or service that is valuable to a very specific group of people. Those people are called the business's customers. And as an author, your product is your book. And your customers are your audience, and they highly value what you have to share with them. They want to know your story. They want to know your expertise. So now let's think about marketing. In order to market a product or a service, customers must have a desire for it. So it's important for each of us to know our customers, to know our audience. In most cases, that product or service solves a problem or provides a pleasure, the 2 most powerful reasons people purchase things. The same is true for authors. Your book must solve a problem and provide pleasure for your audience. And in a lot of ways, books provide both. Expert books give powerful information and guidance, and they also share stories, your experiences and the experiences of your clients that help your audience see how you can help them. Your audience is hungry for what you have to share with them through your book. And I work primarily with nonfiction writers, but the same is true for fiction writers as well. You're solving a problem for people who read fiction, and you're providing a lot of pleasure. So it's really an important piece of, an important exercise is to get crystal clear about who your audience is. Just like businesses that are promoting a specific product that we go out and buy, know what their customer is looking for. Okay, let's talk about sales. In order to sell a product or a service, it has to be offered at a price customers are willing to pay. Again, the same is true for a book. It has to be offered at a price that customers want to pay. And there's a lot of factors that go into determining the price of a physical book and an ebook and an audiobook. And I could actually write and deliver a webinar on that all by itself. But let's just suffice it to say that the price of books, we're talking about ebooks, audiobooks, print books, go anywhere from 99 cents for an ebook all the way up to $20, $25 for the physical book. So there's a lot to be learned about how to price your book so that they are attractive to audience and that they'll buy them easily. Which leads us into the conversation about distribution. Customers want easy access to products and services, just as your audience want to be able to get your book easily and quickly in the format that they like most. And let's underscore that format that they like most, because the past several years the way to read books has changed so significantly. It's some ways it could be overwhelming, but it's also very exciting. Some people want to hold a book in their hands, to feel it, to smell it. Others won't even consider buying a physical book anymore. They love their digital devices. And still others prefer to listen to audiobooks. So we as authors have to know what our audience wants and make our books available in a variety of ways so that they will be available and accessible to a wide number of people in our audience. And as you plan to write your expert book, you must know your audience and how they purchase those books. Okay, let's finally talk about finance. Every business needs to bring in enough profit to make it worthwhile for the owner to continue operating their business. In fact, they need to bring in enough profit to make it possible to operate their business. And as I alluded to earlier, one of the blocks of many aspiring authors is that nagging question of how to make their investment worth it. How do they get a return on their investment of time, energy, and money when most of us are self-publishing our books these days? So I want to spend some time now addressing that issue straight up. Because as I've worked with people over, the past decade, I've learned that there are three ways that are quite effective in helping people make money with their books. First of all, you have to write it in order to be able to sell it. You then can repurpose the content of your book, and then you can attract more business because of the fact that you have actually written the book. So first of all, you have to write the book. Without the book, the next two things can't happen. And that then goes into a process that I'll talk about in just a couple minutes about the whole writing process and what it takes to make it possible to write the book, to take away that overwhelm that I mentioned earlier and approach the book writing process one step at a time. Secondly, after you've written the book and it's for sale out there, you have the opportunity to repurpose the content of your book. And what that means is that you can enter into the world of content marketing, where you educate and give information to the people you want to work with in your business. And that's the same is true for fiction writers as well. You can share the information about being an author and about your genre and engage your audience in that way, as well as sharing the actual fiction books that you write for them. So basically what you're doing is you're providing the process of providing content about your expertise becomes a primary marketing tool for you and your business. It also means that as you repurpose your content, it means that you are approaching your book project with a dual purpose in mind. You're also capturing the foundational content of your business's processes and systems. Basically, how you work with your clients. And you're outlining that in your book, and then you can also produce some saleable products from that content. For example, once you've written down what you do as an expert, the work you do, how you work with clients, and why it matters that you work with them, why they want to work with you, you can then take all that information and create your signature speech, because we all know that public speaking is a very effective way to market a business. You also can develop workshop curriculum, webinar structures. You can also promote more books, ebooks, blog posts. The list goes on with what's possible. You can also start writing articles and being guest bloggers and being a guest blogger and submitting articles to magazines, online and print magazines. So the value of taking the time to understand your whole business process and capture it in a book is highly valuable. Third, you can attract more business as a result of having written your book. And this is where the increased credibility and visibility comes into play. And I want to share with you just a brief story about one of my current clients. She's a client that I've been working with actually for a couple of years. And she has a multi-million-dollar business in the retail industry. Business is a family business, and it's very successful. And she got to a point, she says, I know I need to write a book because I have a very unique approach in the retail industry. Basically, she works as a consultant in fitting rooms, helping retail stores have effective fitting rooms. And she felt that it would just be a no-brainer to get this book written. And it wasn't a no-brainer for her. She found it very difficult to, as she would sit down, nothing would come. So we started working together, and she is now in awe about the clarity that she and the rest of her company has about the work that they do in the retail stores and what they offer and how they offer it. Putting that book together provided a lot of informational graphics that outlines how they work with clients and how they approach and talk to the executives of retail apparel stores. And the whole company has a greater sense of how to go about doing their work as a result of, you know, my client writing this book, because they were all engaged throughout the whole process. And this book is going to launch in January, and she's never felt stronger and more confident about the value of her business and the company's products. And she's excited and confident to make a transition from being you know, the business owner to going out and actually consulting at a high level with the executives of retail apparel stores at this point in time. And that's one of the primary reasons she wrote that book, is to establish her credibility and increase her visibility in that world of retail apparel. So when you write your expert book, you're establishing the foundation for your business and also developing the content for implementing your marketing strategy. And writing your book will help you get clear about your business message, who your target market is and how you serve that market, why working with you is important, and you'll also design the content of your marketing strategy as well. Because the resources that you've devoted to writing your book, time, energy, and money that you provide, enhances your position in the marketplace. You will know specifically who you want to attract and be able to speak your offer with utmost clarity. So let me take a breather here, because I get kind of fired up when I talk about the value of writing a book. So, and I hope you're experiencing the same kind of excitement and seeing what's possible for you. So let me just move on, because we're still left with answering the question that a lot of aspiring authors have that stops them. And it's like, what do I do? So here's my guidance to you at this point in time. There are 4 things to think about what you do about getting started and also getting your book finished without feeling overwhelmed. First of all is to understand the writing process, to take one step at a time, and then accept that there are no shortcuts. And I'm going to talk about the writing process in just a minute, so that you understand why there are no shortcuts and no, fast way to make the clarity that you desire happen. And the fourth, tasks that, action that I encourage you to take is to get some help and don't take the journey alone. Writing is a pretty solitary experience when you're sitting down at the computer, but it doesn't have to be something that you do alone. So let's talk about the writing process itself. There are 3 phases to the writing process. The first phase is to plan the book. Most people I work with have had the experience of deciding that they want to write a book, so they sit down at the computer and they just start writing. And then about an hour later, they walk away feeling discouraged and overwhelmed by the scope of the project. They they ran out of things to say about an hour in. So to me, planning is the most important part an aspiring writer has to do, and it's what most writers want to skip. They find it boring and time-consuming. They'd much rather be talking about how to actually get their book published. And in fact, that's how many people begin a conversation with me. They say, well, what's the best way to get my book published? And I respond back to them, well, what's the status of your manuscript? That's when their eyes glaze over and they say, well, I haven't started writing it yet. That's when I say, okay, let's go back to the foundation and plan your book, because planning is the foundation for every successful book project. Bypassing this step will cost you dearly. Taking the time to plan is crucial, because this is where you have the opportunity to identify your audience and how your book serves their need, where you get crystal clear about your message and how it fits into the marketplace. It's where you will outline the content of your book and how it supports that key message and the way that you are serving your clients. And it's also where you create a writing plan and break your book project down into manageable steps over a very specific period of time that matches your end result and what the goals that you have and what you desire. Now, let's talk about the writing itself. There really are 2 different phases of writing. I call them the generating phase and the analyzing phase. And they are 2 separate functions. A lot of writers try to do both at the same time, and it doesn't work. They're trying to take all the information that's spinning around in their heads and write it on paper and craft the perfect message the first time through, all at the same time, and they're unsuccessful. So how I work with people is I help them to just get all the information out. Everything based on this writing plan that we've established, they get everything they have to say out, go into a process of analyzing and organizing the information and then editing and revising, because it really is in the revision process that a well-written book is crafted. It's where the magic occurs. So, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give is to not try to do it all at the same time. Give it the time that it takes to craft a well-written book and get the help that you need to make that happen. Hardly ever does a book look the same between when you envision it and at the end of the writing process, when the manuscript is ready to be submitted for print. Which is the point that then the publishing takes place. So this is the part where your book gets turned in, where what you've written, your manuscript, gets turned into a book. And as we've talked before, a book can take several forms: print, digital, audio, and there's a lot of different things that happen in those three forms as well. And each form has its own type of design phase and production phase before people get to be able to hold it in their hands, see it on Amazon, put it on a reading device, hear it as an audio book. So my biggest advice in the publishing process is remember that it takes a team of professionals to produce a quality project and a quality product. Yeah, there's a lot out there that says, oh, you can do it yourself. It's really simple. And it is, I could build a case that it is simple, but it's not easy. And if you're wanting a high quality product that reflects your brand as an author, as a business person, I highly recommend that you work with professionals. They're editors, proofreaders, graphic designers, professionals whose business it is to produce high quality books. And Legacy One Authors has a team to help make that happen. Now there's one phase that isn't reflected in this arrow, this graphic that I use, and you may be wondering why there isn't a fourth phase that's called promotion. And this is why, because promotion of your book needs to start at the very moment you say yes to writing your book. It's not something that you start thinking about once you're holding the book in your hands or it's available on Amazon. It is a process that starts at the very beginning. It's not a separate phase. It occurs throughout this whole process from beginning to end, because the very same questions that we go over in planning a book are also the questions that need to be addressed and answered to establish an effective marketing and promotional plan. Okay. This is the point that I want to talk with you about, that opportunity of being able to go further and take some action steps. I have developed for you what I call an expert author fast track kit. And it's an opportunity for you to have a self-study program where you can work through the steps of planning your own book and getting some guidance from some other authors who have gone through the process before you, and they will give you some encouragement. It's also an opportunity for you to take some answer some questionnaires and take some assessments that I've created to help you determine where you are in the process of deciding to write your book and how you want to go about publishing and following that whole process of planning, writing, and publishing your book. So the Fast Track Kit is comprised of several things. First of all, you would get digitally 2 books that I have written. One is called the Expert Planning Made Simple. It's really that planning guide for helping you get clear about what your book is about and establishing a plan for getting your book written. The other book is a book that I co-authored with the PR expert Margot Myers, and we outlined some simple steps to promotion of a book for authors. It's a primer, very basic conversation about what authors need to do to create their promotional plan. I've also then created 3 inventories, self-assessments, questionnaires that I actually use with the clients that I work with to help us get started and understand where we are in where we are and where we need to go. They're tools that I use every day with people, so I'm just wanting to pass those on to you. And then also I am sharing with you 4 recordings with successful authors who have gone on this journey before. They talk about how they've overcome the obstacles that we talked about earlier. And they also share with you some guidance about what they have learned, and they are highly encouraging of you as you go about writing and publishing your books. And here's how you can go about purchasing that fast track kit. Oh, let me tell you, though, I added something to this for you all. I also want to be supportive of you as you work through the kit. So I am offering you a complimentary 30-minute Get Your Book Done consultation so that I can help you establish what your next steps are and answer any questions that you have along the way as you're going through it. This kit is available to you for $97, and it's accessible on the at the URL that's on your screen. It's goo.gl/YLL capital EIF. It's a I just hope, I invite all of you to take advantage of this and be in touch with me about how I can further support you. We have only a few more minutes because I want to be able to keep this to an hour, and I'm gotten to kind of the end of the time. And if you have questions that I haven't been able to address in this webinar, I really encourage you to send me an email directly at my email address, Karen@LegacyOneAuthors.com. And I'll be happy to address that specifically to you. In closing this webinar, I want to share with you another quote that it's in my book, and it's one of the things that I discovered as I was writing, and as I'm working with people about, one of the obstacles that needs to be overcome. And, I really hope it's inspiring to you to help you take that first step of action. And it's that the greatest obstacle to writing is the gap between intending to write and writing the first words. And reaching that chasm requires action, a choice to actually start. And failure to do so keeps our ideas, our expertise, our story hidden. We remain invisible, and our story is left untold. So in a lot of ways, when we want to write and we don't bridge that chasm, we start to go invisible, like Louise DeSalvo said in that quote that I shared with you earlier. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. I've enjoyed working with you and talking with you about my passion for helping people write, and I hope to hear from you, and I hope to be working with some of you in helping you work through that fast track kit as well. So thank you for being here, and have a fabulous day.